Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm actually going to show you how I procrastinate. I should be actually making a pair of trousers, but I was just flicking through The Cut of Men's Clothes and by Nora War, which this is a paperback copy, which I bought on Amazon a few years back. And I was just flicking through it, and as you can see, I've looked at lots of pages in the past. I actually did quite a lot of work on copying some of the patterns from the book. But today, as I said, I was supposed to be making trousers, and I just started thinking about, I was actually thinking about breeches from an earlier period, so from the 18th century. And I came across, let me see if I can find it because I didn't bookmark it. I came across this pattern and thought, oh, that's quite interesting. But this whole way of scaling it up, it takes time, as you can see on this page. I don't know whether you can see it, but it takes a lot of time to do that. However, I carried on flicking through and I found this page, and this is from the Gentleman's Magazine of Fashion, January 1850. And it's patterns for trousers, and we have hussar shape, tight fit, pleated front and footed bottom. So I've looked through this before and thought, oh no, it's too complicated, but it's not complicated really, and it's a lot easier than doing it that style. Okay, so I was just going to do it, but I thought I might as well record it so you can share the experience with me and see whether it is as traumatic as I originally thought or is as easy as I seem to think it is today. But that might be because I'm actually supposed to be doing something else. Okay, so what you have to do is look at it, take away the trouser picture really, and start with that dotted box. So you find naught. And usually if you draft a modern pair of trousers, you usually start with naught up here, but naught is hidden down here. And basically you just measure up to the fullest length, which is 46.5. You then draw a line at 42.5, you draw a line at 33 and a line at 60.5, and they come across, and then we work out how far these are over. So I'm going to work through it. I'm going to try and talk while I do it so that it makes sense to you as well. And let's see how we get on. I will be using my metre rule because it's in inches, and I will use my pattern master, although I'm just going to use that. So that's my pattern master, which if you've come to this channel before, you know that I love a pattern master. And what I'm going to do is just use this to make sure that I get right angles, okay? Because it's in centimetres, it won't work with this. So I'm going to start off with creating my box, and what I like to do is try and keep it so that it is kind of the angle that I'm going at. So I might disappear off. Let's see if we can do this. The only problem with trousers is that there's so much of them. It's really difficult to do on screen. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to square a line up, and I'm going to mark naught down there, and then I'm going to square all the way along, and I'm just going to measure it as I go. So I've got 27, I'm going to mark 30, and then I need 46.5. I'm going to do the hussar shape. Yeah, I'm going to do the hussar shape. So I need 46.5, so that's 30. Mark another 10 to 40, and then 6.5, and just mark that. And then I'm just going to use the pattern master with its lovely right angle to square across. And then all the way down the other end. I'm going to square across at naught as well. And then I'm going to start down there with the naught measurements, and I'm going to square across. So I'm going to square across 2 3/8. So I'm just going to write this 2 3/8. Then the next one is 5 1/2, and then it's 9 1/2, and then 11. So 2 3/8, and it's not 5 1/2 on, it's still 5 1/2 from naught. 5 1/2, then 9 1/2, and then 11. Okay, and then I'm not going to square up yet because I noticed when I was looking at this earlier that it's 9 1/2 here, but it's 9 7/8 there. So that is not a rectangle. It gets wider, and then it's 10 1/4 here and 10 1/4 up there. So I'm going to go back now up the length. So from naught I need to measure 16 1/2 inches. So 16 1/2 is to there, which, judging by the image, it is my knee line. And then 33, which is my hip line. I'm just going to put that next to there just because I've got another marking there which I don't want to confuse myself with. And then 42 1/2, which I'm going to use that because I know that's 30. So I'm going to use 42 1/2, so I'm going to add on 10 1/2. And that's that point there. Okay, which is the top of the side seam. So it's the waistline, basically. So that's 42 1/2 is my waistline. So 42 1/2 is my outside leg. We've got 46 1/2 to take us right up to there. And then I'm going to square out from all of those. Okay, and then just the last one is my knee line, which I'll just do over here quickly. Okay. And then, so I'm going to start with my top line. So from that 46 1/2, which is this one, that's the 42 1/2. I'm going to measure across 6 1/4. And then on this line, I'm going to measure across. So I've got 3 1/8, which is to my front side seam. And then I've got 8 3/8. And then I've got 10 1/2. Okay, then on the next line now down, which is the 33 line, I'm going to measure across. So I've got 33. I think all this is to do with that pair of trousers, so I'm just going to ignore that for a minute. So I'm going to measure across 1 1/2. Not sure what that line is denoting, but I'll just mark it on anyway. And then I'm going to measure across 10 1/4, then 13 1/8, 4.5, no, 14.5, that must be. And that looks a bit odd, that looks like a 5. Okay, let's see what happens. So we need 1.5 for that mysterious measurement. Then we have 10.25 to there. Then we have 13 3/8 to there. And then we have 14, I'm just going to extend that line. So that's 13 3/8. Then we got 14.5. And then we've got that mystery measurement. Okay, so let's just mark that as 14.5. And we go, that one is the 10.25. So that one, right, and then I'm going to go down to the next line, which is my knee line. And that's got a measurement across, which is 9 7/8. Oh no, hang on, we've got 1 1/8. 1 1/8. Then 9 7/8. Oops. And we're just going to extend that line again. 9 7/8, and then 12.25. Okay, and then I'm going to join the 9.5 at the bottom to the 9 7/8 to the 10.25 and 10.25. Let's see if they actually, I'd thought that that one at the top, yeah, it's actually sitting on this side. Okay, so that's my guideline, and I was going to say I can't, unless I actually re-alter that, which I could do. Let's do that. The line naturally wanted to go there, but I'm going to go there. So that's my 10.25 line, and then we're going to join the. So I'm going to join the 2 3/8 to the 1/8 to the side seam. So I'm going to actually get my hip curve out as well, I think. So I'm going to join to the knee. Oh no, it does go in a straight, okay. But I think I would still, let's just draw it in. There you go. And then we've got this curve here. Got this curve coming from 0 to about midway. So I'm going to get my hip curve and just draw that in. So midway approximately is here. So it's quite a scoopy looking curve. So I'm just going to draw that in like that. Okay. Then I'm going to join my 11 to 12 and come up I wonder whether that's supposed to be 15. Over here, if we have a look over here, we've got 15 3/4, so I think that is 15, and it's just been, the number's been knocked off. So I'm just going to put a line or a marking at 15. And then I'm just going to join, for the moment, I'm just going to join 11, 12.25 to 13 and an 8, which is that one there. And we'll come back to shaping the crotch area in a minute. Because we're going to go I think if we get the waistline done, and then we'll come back to this because it's working out. I mean, that looks like it's just under halfway, so we'll work that out in a moment. So this at the moment is my inside leg, and I've got a curve there which is coming up and then coming in ever so slightly, which we could use that first line that I drew. So let's use the hip curve. I expect if I was being really pernickety about this, I could actually measure this off and work out what an inch is. So for example, I've got 1 1/8 inches here, so I could measure that to see whether that works out, that if you times it by or multiply it up, you know it's 6 1/4 is right, to see whether it's in scale. And then we can work out where, because you've got a diagonal line there, so it's working out how far over that is. I might do that on another day, but let's just get the kind of rough idea of where these are going. So then we've got that very sweeping curve from the side seam round to here. So that's for our front hip measurement. Which, if I was making modern trousers, I don't know that I would do that quite so extreme, but we are making Hussar trousers apparently, so we'll go with that, and I'm just going to join that onto there, and that is my front, in theory that's my front trouser drawn out. Oh, excuse me, because that's the right shape for that, and that's my front trouser. So we've got an extra line, that's quite interesting. I wonder what this extra line is. It's coming to the front. Anyway, we'll come back to that. So that's our front, and then we're going to join from 42 to 6 1/4, and it's a pretty well straight, but there's a little bit of a curve at the top, so I'm just going to use my hip rule to do that. And there is a dart as well, which doesn't tell you anything about at all. So, and it actually comes out. Okay, so if we have a look there, again, it doesn't really give you anything to tell you what that is. There's no scale as such, but we could probably work it out. If that's 1 inch and 1/8, I would say it's probably 1/2 inch. So let's just get our meter rule, come across 1/2 inch. So we want to do that kind of shape. Get rid of all of that. Okay. I think I would do probably just scoop that a bit more, or less than scoop, so it's more like that. Okay, and then that joins, it goes through the 1/8 3/4 point to hit the 15, and I think what I might do is do the 15 to the 1/8 3/4 point. And you can see that, if I missed you. There we go, so that's the 15 there. I'm just going to follow that and meet that, meet that 1/8 3/4 point. And then you have to change direction ever so slightly to get to the 6 1/4. I think I would actually just let that go like that, and I think we'll move the 6 1/4 because I don't think that works as well. So we'll go from there to hit like that. Might be going too scoopy. Now doing what I hate, and I tell my students off, don't do too many lines. So I'm going to rub that one out. There we go. And just say these pencils, they're Papermate retractable pencils, HB. I think they're one of the best pencils I've ever used for pattern drafting, because the rubbers actually work on pattern paper. So many don't. It's so frustrating. Okay. Then we're going to do this bit here. So where it comes in on the inside leg. And we're going to just work out, it's just under halfway. So I'm going to measure down to my knee line. What have I got there? I've got about 16.5. So 8.25 would be halfway. So I'm going to go 7. And then use the hip curve so that it goes out to the 15. Let's just do a line which is going to the 14. And then that 14.5, and that 14.5 joins to the front seam. I'm not entirely sure what that is. That's very odd. And there we go. We have traced off, and that's everything. That's that shape. The only thing we haven't done is this dart, which has got no direction of how to do it. It looks like it sits about here. Again, I would say it is about 1/2 inch, which is what I've drawn. I'm just going to draw a line, draw a midline like that. And then I'm just going to do what you need to do when you do a dart, which is make sure that's 2 inches on that side, and then that will be 2 inches on that side. So you have to readjust. They haven't done this on the drawing, but you have to readjust to make sure that both sides of your dart are the same length. Otherwise, when you put them together, they'll be offset. So you need to make sure that your dart, it'll look odd on the pattern piece, but once that's squeeged together, because the dart takes away excess fabric, so it's pulling it in to make it fit around the body, that line has to match that line. Otherwise, they end up being, you know, like that. If you sewed the two together and they were different lengths, if that's the top edge, that's your dart, they would do that. Okay. Whereas although they look like they're going to do that now, they'll actually go through and be nice and straight and smooth across the top. Gives me an idea for another video. Okay, if you've enjoyed this, make sure you like it, and make sure you subscribe for me, because I'm just going to work through lots of different things on this channel that I think are interesting, that I think are helpful to know as a costume maker, even as a home sewer, or you're making costumes for yourself. I make professionally, but it's still of interest to me of what, you know, excuse me, of what, you know, how things were made, and how to make things that you're not necessarily sure of. Oh, I just realised I haven't drawn this line in over here. I was just measuring, so 8 3/4, 8 3/4. So I'm just going to draw my hip line in over here. Okay, and what I've just measured across the waist, so on the front I've got 7.5, and on the back I've got 8 3/4. So that equals 16.25, which times 2, because this is only half the body, that means it's a 32.5. It'll fit 32, well, it measures 32.5 inches circumference for a waist. And so I would think it would fit a 31, 32 waist. What it doesn't tell me on this is whether you're supposed to add on a waistband. And it's interesting because these are all different heights. This one has got a grown-on waistband. This one has got a grown-on waistband. But the height at the back is only 45. This one's height at the back is 47.25. The one we've just done is 46, as is the pleated front ones. Now, if they're pleated front, you'd have to go into a waistband. So I'm assuming that we would have to build a waistband to add onto there. But it doesn't tell me that in the information. I think what we'd end up doing is making them up and then see where they sit on someone, and then work out whether that whether we need to add a waistband on or not. Okay, so that's me drafting the Hussar shaped trousers on page 136 of The Cut of Men's Clothes by Nora Waugh. Fantastic book. If you haven't got it, I would highly recommend, if you're interested in the history of menswear and you're planning to make anything from the historical men's costume, it would be a really good idea to invest in it, or have a look at it online, or get it. Can you get things from libraries anymore? I'm guessing you can. But I hope you've enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.